All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Freelance Connection. So, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take some time and talk about the whole process from searching to jobs to finding jobs that you're interested in to sending proposals. So, this is really, really top of mind for me right now, as I am in the process of hiring and for myself, and then I also am helping a couple clients hire. So, here's what my thoughts are as a freelancer. So I'm putting myself back in the freelancing when I am applying for jobs, when I'm looking to be hired for jobs. So I always want to make sure that I carve out time to look through the jobs. I want to make sure that I'm aligned with them, that they are something that I can be successful in that role before I spend the time applying. So thinking about it like this, I've spent the time scrolling through all of the jobs on Upwork. I probably have clicked the heart button so I save them and I can apply for them later. But I'm now sitting at my desk really looking at the elements of the job that I'm applying for. Like, one, does it sound like something that I'm interested in? Two, does it look like the client is good? Three, is it something in the pay range that I'm looking for? And so when that all comes together, I've decided, yes, I'm going to apply for this job. So again, I have time invested in it. I found it on the Upwork job search. I've now read it thoroughly, and now I'm going to apply for it. Okay. So when I go to apply for it, I'm going to give a lot more effort in applying for it, right? So when I'm submitting my cover letter to my proposal, I make sure that I include everything, because what happens is people don't look at your profile. Like, they are top of mind seeing what's directly in front of them, and that is your cover letter. So even if you're repeating things that are on your profile, that's still super important, because they're probably not, if you don't hook them in your cover letter, they're never going to on their own go look at your profile unless they're desperate. Okay. So that's one thing that I want to iterate, because I've now sat through more than 50, sifted through more than 50 job applications between myself and clients that I'm helping hire for. And I would say the average is about 4 to 6 sentences in that cover letter. And if I get 4 to 6 sentences and you haven't hooked me, there's been a couple that I've read more and then I've asked some follow-up questions, but most of them I'm like, not interested, just archived. Like, you're not being seen. Like, they might have had great they might have had great profiles, but I didn't spend the time looking at them because I felt like they didn't put any effort into telling me specifically, like, you have a general profile, like, this is me, okay? Like, that's your calling card, is your profile. But your cover letter is intended to be that correlation, that hook that's going to intrigue that potential client to set you, like, you need to set yourself apart from every other person who's applying for that job. And how are you doing that? So that's what I really wanted to spend time today, like, covering. So making sure that you correlate yourself to that specific job posting. And sometimes those job postings are not a lot of detail. But for example, on one of the job postings, like, I specifically said, and I wanted to see how many people commented, like, I want people to boss me around. Like, right now, the week that I'm having is I overscheduled myself. So what, in my perfect world, I need someone who is on my team allowing me the work time and saying, no, you need to put boundaries up. You can't do 27 calls when you want to work a 40-hour work week. You're never going to get any progress made that way, if that makes sense. So one of the things that I put in the job description is like, hey, you're going to have to get bossy with me from time to time. And that's totally okay. I wanted to see specifically how people would react with that. And no one at this point, when I'm recording this video, has even commented on that. So there's little things that people do when they're looking for things. And I'm sure if you've scrolled enough, you're going to see people that put, if you read to the bottom, put X in your job proposal so I know that you read to the bottom. Like, that's how desperate people are to make sure that you've read their job postings thoroughly. They'll go to that length because that's a checks and balance for them. So you have to play by how each person wants you to apply. You have to morph into that if you want that job. Like, the communication can still be in your control. Like, you can still align all of your communication lines together. And that just takes communication. Okay, so when you're really looking at what what's in a good proposal, because I'm wondering now, like, do people just not know what to put in their proposal? All right, that could be one thing, valid, totally valid. Or there are these people that put a cover letter together and submit their resume, and their resume is supposed to speak for themselves. It's not like that on Upwork. You really need to set yourself apart. And so here's what my outline is for my proposals. Okay. I make sure that I have a hook in my first like 3 to 4 sentences. I want to pick something out specific to that job listing that I can go in depth on. So we'll just take my job listing. So if someone's telling me to boss them around, I would be like, okay, I can be bossy. I don't want to cross a line. So I would want to set up some parameters of like, what do you need me to be bossy on? Like I would ask them a question in that. So then they're compelled to respond. Does that make sense? So then after that, I give some brief highlights of me, letting them know who I'm about, what I do, what services, and then I let them know what it looks like to work with me, because I feel like that's important. I want them to know like what my work style is. One, it's telling them more details, but two, it's setting the stage for me to take a little bit of the control of the communication and of the boundaries. So I say right in there, like, I'm happy to help you Monday through Friday, and you'll get the occasional response on a weekend, but don't count on it. Like, that's just a boundary that I have in place. So you can be totally frank with that. You are in the driver's seat of your proposal, but you also have to be aware that you're matching the skills needed in the job listing. Okay. And it's totally okay to ask for additional questions. So sometimes when I'm applying for jobs, these people who are posting jobs constantly are having like extra questions. And sometimes those questions are just not relevant. And I simply say like, hey, I'm not sure the direction that you want me to answer this question. I would love to discuss this in person. Or it's such a generalized question that I give them a little bit of strategy in there. And I'd say, I love to, connect on a call. Every time, like, my goal is to connect with people on a call. And so when I put that in the job posting, in the job proposal or in their questions, they know exactly what it means for next steps with me. It's setting up a call to discuss the overall project scope. Okay. So it's not time in there to like lay out all the strategy, because honestly, then they could just take it and run. And there's your intellectual property. There's your ideas running out the window. So there's a really good balance. But what I really want to get to in this is making sure that you're spending time and effort on those proposals. Like, if you're just rapid firing those proposals out, 3 to 4 sentences and being done, I would really like to know your stats if you're really closing jobs that way. Because in my experience of being a freelancer, like, I've never done that, and I just don't see that being successful. But I've also been on the hiring end now many, many times where that's not there's not enough of a hook. There's not enough of information. And yes, I could schedule a call, but when you're talking about getting anywhere from 30 to 40 job proposals for one job posting, I'm not going to schedule 30 to 40 calls. I'm going to schedule calls with probably the top 3 or 4 people that show effort and show that they're really interested in my job proposal or in my job listing when they submit their proposal. Okay. So definitely think about that, because then you set the stage for setting up that interview. All right. If you have any questions, comments, please comment. I want to continue this conversation because this is really heavy on my heart right now, and I want everyone to be successful. All right. Have a great day.